My name is Linda. I'm 63, living alone in a quiet neighborhood in Omaha. After my husband passed, I kept things steady. I worked at a laundromat, cooked simple meals. I never bought anything I didn't need. A few years ago, my son Andrew moved to Austin. He started a logistics company. Took off. Now he has hundreds of employees, a sprawling office, and a modern house with white walls and smooth glass. I was proud of him. Still am. We didn't talk much. Just holiday calls, the occasional birthday card. But last Christmas he called and said, "Mom, you've earned a break. I bought you a lake house in Colorado. It's all in your name. You can move in any time." I stood in the kitchen holding the receiver. "A lake house?" He laughed. "Yeah, Kelly found it. It's perfect. She'll handle the paperwork." My hand tensed around the phone. "Why Kelly? She's good with this stuff. Just let her walk you through it." Thanked him. What else could I say? He sent one photo. A blue-gray home on the edge of still water. Pine trees. A wooden dock. Looked like a postcard. I printed it out and pinned it on the fridge. I didn't have the heart to ask why there was no address, no key, no documents. Weeks passed. Then months. Kelly began calling. Never Andrew, only her. "We're expecting you to downsize soon. It's silly paying rent when you've got a house waiting." I reminded her I still worked part-time. "Of course. But this house won't be free forever. We've paid a lot up front. Just think about moving." That phrase, "we've paid," started to echo. By spring, Kelly's tone changed. "Can you help with our son on weekends? Since you're not working much. And bake something for our neighborhood brunch. Everyone loved your banana bread." I did as she asked. Bake. I watched their son. I cleaned after the brunch. No thank you came. Once I heard her on the phone. "My husband's mom lives like royalty on his money. She's barely lifted a finger. We'll figure it out." I stood in the hallway, hands damp from dishwater. That was the first time I looked at the lake house photo and wondered if it even existed. Each month, when I asked for an update, Kelly replied, "The paperwork's almost done." Andrew stayed quiet. Too busy. One Thursday afternoon, I ran into my old neighbor Sandra at the market. She looked at me, confused. "I thought you moved. Kelly said you were living in Colorado now." I shook my head slowly. "I've never even seen the place." Sandra frowned. "That's odd." She was pretty specific. "She said you had a fireplace and a private dock." He nodded. I'd heard that too. Through Andrew. Secondhand. I bought my groceries and went home. Sat down with my tea. Stared at the printed photo. It began to curl at the edges. I hadn't curled. I had bent. But now, something inside me started to fold the other way. I was tired of waiting for what was supposedly mine. I didn't confront Andrew. I didn't confront Kelly. I kept doing what I always had. My job at the laundromat, the quiet shopping trips, the careful budgeting. But inside something had shifted. I was no longer hoping. I was watching. Kelly's requests became expectations. No more if you have time or when you can. Just instructions. Pick him up by 4. Don't let him have juice before dinner. Use almond flour in the muffins. People complain about gluten. One Saturday morning, I arrived at their house to find a party already underway. Balloons. Catering. People I didn't know. Kelly saw me and waved her phone. "Great, you're here. Can you handle the kids upstairs? They're driving us nuts." He nodded. Spent the next 3 hours watching cartoons and wiping noses. When I came down, the party was over. The kitchen was wrecked. No one said goodbye. On the drive home, I saw my reflection in the rearview mirror. Tired. Dull. Lips pressed into a line. 2 days later, I asked Andrew again, "Where's the paperwork for the lake house?" He blinked at me over video chat. "Kelly's handling it. It's all in your name. She showed me the file." "Then why haven't I seen it? Why don't I have a key?" He shifted uncomfortably. "She said it was mailed months ago." I shook my head. He promised to check. The next week I got an envelope from Kelly. Inside, a single-page printout of a listing photo, same image I already had, and a sticky note. We'll schedule a tour when you're ready to move. Hey. No address, no deed, no signature. That night I couldn't sleep. Kept replaying the phone call. Tone. The silence. I made tea and sat on my small back porch. The next day, I spoke to Marcy, the laundromat owner. I think I need some time off, I said. She looked at me. You've never asked for that before. I've never needed to, I said. But I do now. I spent the next few days organizing. Not my belongings. My questions. I listed every time Kelly had mentioned the house. Every time I'd asked. Every vague reply. Every odd comment overheard. I made a separate list of favors, tasks, events. The unpaid labor. The silence. I looked through old texts. I counted the days since Andrew had first called. 14 months. Then came Christmas. I invited them over. Cooked everything from scratch. Decorated the table. Put up lights. Even stitched a new runner for the mantel. They arrived late. Kelly didn't remove her coat. Andrew hugged me absent-mindedly. When we sat down to eat, Andrew smiled. So, how's lake life treating you, Mom? Still love the fireplace. I set down my fork. What house, Andrew? I don't know the address. I don't have a key. I've never been. He went quiet. The room did too. Kelly stood abruptly. Excuse me. I need to make a call. She left her plate untouched. Andrew looked down. Mom, I thought it was done. I didn't realize. I didn't press. I cleared the plates. Washed the dishes. Folded the runner. Took down the lights the next morning. The photo was still on the fridge. Took it down. Not in anger. Just because I was finally seeing it for what it was. A story someone had sold me. And I was done being the buyer. The next morning I called Andrew. He answered on speaker. Hey, Mom. Everything okay? Andrew, I need to see the paperwork. For the lake house. All of it. Not from Kelly. From you. There was a pause. Then he said, let me call you back. He didn't. That evening I received a text. Come by tomorrow. We'll go over everything. I arrived with a notepad and pen. Kelly was out. Andrew sat on the back patio with his laptop. Here, he said, flipping the screen toward me. I saw payment receipts. Monthly wire transfers. Indeed. My name typed clean across the top. See. It's yours. I pointed to the bank account number. That's not mine. Mine ends in 3092. This says 8674. Andrew frowned. That's weird. He called his assistant. She sounded confused. Kelly gave us the account details. And the address updates. Everything came from her. I looked Andrew in the eye. I've never seen a penny of that money. He closed the laptop slowly. Understood. I need to see the house. In person. Tomorrow. He nodded. I'll clear my schedule. We drove early the next morning. 4-hour trip. He didn't say much. Just turned up the radio. The house was real. 2-story home by the lake. Fresh paint. Gate. A rental sign in the yard. Andrew blinked. That shouldn't be there. We walked to the porch. I knocked. A young woman opened the door. Can I help you? Andrew explained. She hesitated, then went inside. Returned with a lease agreement. Name. A company name. KEH Property Solutions. My stomach dropped. That's Kelly's initials. The woman frowned. I deal with a property manager. I don't know the owner. I just pay rent. We thanked her and left. Andrew didn't speak until we reached the car. I didn't know. I swear. I didn't respond. Back in Omaha I went to my bank. Brought my ID, social security card. The teller pulled up my records. No recent deposits. No new accounts. Then we checked national databases. Another account. Name. Fake email. Out-of-state address. Opened 2 years ago. Forgery. Tax filings linked to that account. Refunds claimed. even a small business loan. $82,000. I called Andrew. Told him everything. He listened. Said he'd talk to Kelly. The next day I met with a lawyer. His office smelled like leather and paper. "What do you want to do?" he asked. "I want to reclaim my name. And I want it quiet." We filed a fraud affidavit. Froze the fake accounts. Reported the identity theft. Began civil proceedings. I sent Andrew a single text. "All future communication goes through my attorney." Kelly showed up at my house 2 nights later. Edit. No makeup. "I made a mistake. My parents were in debt. We needed help. You were fine. You didn't need it." I said nothing. She stepped closer. "You're destroying our family over paperwork. Open the door." "You already did that." She left without another word. That night I lay awake. Not angry. Just alert. Like something in me had sharpened. I wasn't a victim. I was finally paying attention, and in the weeks that followed, everything moved both slowly and all at once. Paperwork piled up. Letters from the bank. Notices from the IRS. Statements I didn't recognize. Richard, my lawyer, was steady. "Don't rush to anger," he said. "Just keep documenting. Quiet wins this." Kelly stopped trying to reach me directly. But the ripple spread. First came Andrew's call. Voicemail. Voice low, tired. "Mom, I'm sorry. I should have paid attention. I don't know what else to say. Please don't take this to court. It'll ruin us." Then his wife's mother called. "You're punishing them. You've got the house now, haven't you? Let it go." They still thought I lived in that postcard. I didn't reply. Instead, I went to the DMV. Filed a formal report for identity misuse. I sat with a woman named Carla who double-checked every form. "You've got a solid paper trail," she said. "That helps. Most don't." He nodded. "I kept everything." She smiled. "That's rare." At home, I began sorting my documents into binders. Dates, receipts, screenshots. Kelly had claimed me as a dependent. She'd listed me on applications I never saw. She borrowed against credit I hadn't used in years. Richard called one afternoon. "We're filing civil. Separate from the criminal side. The house is still legally yours. We're reclaiming rent and damages." I said, "Good." He paused. "Do you want to press charges?" I looked out the window at my small backyard. The wind was sharp that day. "Yes," I said. A week later, the sheriff's office called. "We'd like you to confirm a few things in person." I went in. Signed the final affidavit. Left in silence. 3 days after that, Kelly was formally charged. Andrew came to my porch unannounced. He looked thinner. Eyes ringed. I didn't ask how he found me. "Mom, please. This'll destroy our family. Milo doesn't understand." I stepped outside. Closed the door behind me. "You let her steal my name. You let her lie with your silence." He blinked. "I didn't know. That's the problem. You didn't want to." He looked down. "I'll pay it back," he said. "Whatever she took. I'll fix it." I shook my head. "It's not about the money." He left without saying goodbye. Later that night I made tea. Pulled down the photo I had put away weeks earlier. The lake house. I studied it. Then I packed a small bag, called a cab, and booked a one-way train to Colorado. The woman renting the house had moved out a week ago. Richard had arranged it quietly. When I arrived, the keys were waiting in a lockbox. I stepped inside. The air smelled like cedar and dust. Wooden floors. Wide windows. It was real. I turned the lock. Closed the door. Set my bag on the floor. I stood in the center of the living room and let myself feel something I hadn't allowed in months. Relief. And underneath it, something sturdier. Resolve. This house had been a lie. But now it was mine. And from here forward, everything would be real. The first night in the lake house was silent. Not peaceful, silent. Like the walls were waiting to learn my rhythm. I slept in a small guest room with no curtains, watching the moonlight trace across the ceiling. In the morning, I made coffee using a stovetop percolator someone had left behind. It was strong, bitter. I didn't mind. I sipped it standing barefoot in the kitchen, the tile cold under my feet. I opened every drawer, every cabinet. I made a list of what the house had, what it needed. I started small. Cleaning supplies, towels, a proper lamp for the living room. I ordered them online using my own name. My real account. No middlemen. No filters. By week's end, I had unpacked every box. Most were things I brought from Omaha. Books, a sewing kit, the faded blue blanket from our old couch. I laid it across a bench by the window. I didn't speak to Andrew. I didn't hear from him. The lawyer updated me by email. Kelly had taken a plea. She would avoid jail but had to pay restitution. Community service. A permanent fraud flag on her record. She also lost custody of Milo temporarily. Andrew was granted sole custody while Child Services completed a home review. I read the update twice. Then again. My grandson. Taken from her. Because of what she did. I didn't know how to feel. One cold morning I drove into town. I found a small antique shop and bought 2 ceramic ducks for the porch. Then I stopped at the local grocer and picked out a whole chicken, potatoes and thyme. I cooked slowly that afternoon. Let the smell fill the space. No one was coming over. It was just for me. That night, I took out an old box of photographs. My husband, Thomas. His face beside mine. A photo of Andrew at 10, grinning by a model rocket. One of Milo as a baby, sleeping in my arms. I placed 3 of them on the mantel. Just enough. Later that week a letter arrived. From Andrew. Mom. I don't expect forgiveness. I'm still trying to understand how I let this happen. I thought I was building a life for all of us. I see now I was building something blind. I'm sorry she hurt you. I'm sorry I didn't stop it. Milo asks about you. I told him you're safe and happy. I'd like to bring him to visit. If that's something you'd want. Andrew *. I folded the letter. Left it on the windowsill. I didn't rush to answer. Instead, I spent the next few days clearing brush from the back garden. I found stones buried under dirt. Someone once tried to make a path. I followed it to a small bench at the edge of the property, where the grass dipped toward the lake. That bench became my new spot. I stitched a cover for it, brought out a thermos of tea each morning. I started watching the sunrise again. Each week I did something new. Hung my curtains. Painted the door a soft gray. Cleaned out the shed. I planted rosemary by the back steps. I didn't feel triumphant. Felt steady. One afternoon, I saw a car I didn't recognize slow by the house. Then keep going. The next day I got a call. Ms. Linda Rivers. This is Lacey from Cascade Support Services. We heard you might be interested in volunteering. One of our board members passed your name. I blinked. I didn't give my name to anyone. He said you helped him once. When he was young. He remembered your kindness. That night, I sat on the porch and thought of all the quiet ways life speaks back. Not loudly, but clearly. I called back the next morning and said yes. If the world had taught me one thing, it was this. Kindness needs memory, but it also needs boundaries. I would give again. But never at the cost of myself. The days grew longer, the lake quieter. I kept the card from Milo on the mantel, next to the photo of him as a baby. I didn't reach out again. One sentence was enough, for now. At Cascade, I became the woman people turned to in silence. They didn't ask me for stories. They watched how I moved, how I listened. There was power in not reacting, in simply being present. A woman named Sarah sat beside me one Wednesday. Her hands trembled when she poured her tea. He said I was lucky to have a roof, she whispered. He nodded. That's not love. Her chin quivered, but she didn't cry. Sometimes you don't need tears to mourn what never respected you. By spring, I had turned the shed into a studio. Nothing fancy, just a table, a chair, 2 windows. I cleaned myself. I bought fabric, thread, needles. Started quilting again. I stitched slowly, letting each pattern hold memory. One square for Thomas's flannel shirt. One for the blanket Milo used to nap under. One for the apron I wore the day I opened the laundromat. I wasn't making art. I was mapping a life. One afternoon, I received a letter from the court, confirmation that restitution payments had begun. Kelly's signature was printed at the bottom, though I knew it wasn't really hers. Some court clerk had done it. Still, it felt like a full stop at the end of a long sentence. That night I baked bread. Not to bring to Cascade. Not for anyone. Just for me. Andrew called a week later. I didn't answer the first time. Or the second. On the third try I picked up. "Mom." His voice sounded older. Not tired. Just quieter. "Milo's asking again. He remembers the quilt you made. The one with the trains." I sat in the studio, hands still. "I remember it," I said. "Would you want to see him? We could drive up. Stay in town. I won't bring Kelly. Just us." I let the silence stretch. "Yes," I said finally. "But not yet." He didn't argue. That was new. "I understand," he said. "Thank you for answering." Hung up. Breathed in the scent of rosemary from the open window. At Cascade, Sarah showed me a notebook she'd begun. Daily notes to herself. One said, "My peace matters more than their comfort." Smiled. In May, I received a small plaque. A volunteer recognition award. I didn't attend the ceremony, but I hung it near the studio door. Proof not of my worth, but of my choice to show up again. Differently. One morning I walked down the slope behind the shed. Grass brushed my calves. I found a small flat rock, cleaned it with a rag, and placed a single shell on top. Quiet marker. For the version of me that gave everything, even when asked for nothing. The sky opened wide above. No voices. No explanations. Just stillness. I went back inside and stitched a new square. Soft linen dyed pale green. A piece of the present. Then I opened the front door, sat on the steps, and poured myself tea. Sometimes peace isn't loud. It doesn't arrive with apology or justice or a parade of remorse. Sometimes peace is the sound of scissors cutting clean through old fabric. No frayed edges. Just new shape. New line. My hands, steady. The 7th morning of June began with a breeze through the east window. I left it open now, even at night. The house knew my rhythm. I made tea, poured it into the thermos, and walked to the bench by the lake. The rosemary had started to flower. Pale purple blossoms. I pressed one between my fingers, inhaled its scent. Then I sat. This bench had seen me quiet, angry, unsure. Now it just held me. A shadow moved across the path. It was Andrew, walking slowly, holding Milo's hand. They were smaller than I remembered. Or maybe I had grown. They didn't speak until they reached me. Milo looked up. "Grandma." He nodded. "Yes, sweetheart." He stepped forward. "I brought my truck." He held it up, a small red one, scratched and dented. "I saved it for you." I knelt down, hugged him gently. "I'm glad you did." Andrew stayed standing. He looked unsure. I gestured to the bench. He sat. "I didn't come to explain," he said. "Just to be here." "Good." We watched Milo drive his truck over the grass, through the rosemary, under the bench. After a while, Andrew spoke again. "I sold the company. I'm teaching logistics at the community college now. Something small. Predictable." He nodded. "You don't owe me an apology," I said. He looked at me then. "But I needed to change." "That's yours to do." He looked at the water. "I miss Dad." I didn't say anything. I think he would have done it differently. Shrugged. He would have tried. That's all we can ask of anyone. Milo climbed onto my lap. "I like your house." "Me too." He leaned back against me, and for a long moment none of us spoke. Eventually Andrew stood. "We'll come again if that's okay." He nodded. "Not too often." He smiled just a little. "Understood." They left the same way they came. Quiet, respectful. Milo turned once to wave. I raised my hand. Then lowered it slowly. Back inside I folded laundry, watered the plants, read a chapter of an old mystery novel. Then I went to the studio. I added one more square to the quilt, the red of Milo's toy truck. In the evening I received a call from Lacey. Linda, we're launching a new project. A series of anonymous essays from women in the program. Honest stories. Would you write one? Said yes. I didn't write about betrayal, or fraud, or pain. I wrote about my bench, my thermos, my grandson's voice when he said, "Grandma." The essay ended like this. I didn't reclaim what was taken. I replaced it with something better. My own presence. Not loud, not dependent, just mine. They published it in a small booklet, handed out at the end-of-year gathering. When I received my copy, I slid it into the drawer under the quilt, next to a sealed envelope I had addressed months ago. Inside the envelope was a single sentence. Being needed isn't the same as being loved. I never sent it. I didn't need to. I had learned the difference. That night the wind picked up. It shook the rosemary, rustled the branches near the shed. I sat on the porch, wrapped in Thomas's flannel shirt. No noise inside me. No ache. Just one clear thought. I'm here. And that is finally, firmly enough.